Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today we are going to look at Sonalee and their take on why it's bad to not want to date fat people, essentially. So I'm going to go into this blind. I don't know what Sonalee is going to say, but we're going to go ahead and just see. This was sent to me by somebody, and I thought, I think it would be fun to just do a blind reaction. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get started.
My name is Sonalee Rishatwar. I use
Sonalee. Okay.
she and they pronouns because I identify as non-binary, and I'm popularly known on Instagram as the Fat Sex Therapist. I am a super fat, queer, bisexual, non-binary, Indian American, second generation immigrant, documented, non-practicing Hindu, lower caste, upper middle class, East Coast for life, Jersey girl, cat mom, plant dad, and licensed clinical social worker living in Philadelphia.
I just want you guys to know that I would never, ever introduce myself in any kind of way like that, ever. I don't know. It's just not my style, but I just had to say that. Let's go ahead and continue. I don't even know how I would introduce myself, but it wouldn't be like that. I think I would literally just say, "Hi, I'm Alex." That's about it.
I am here today to talk about why fatphobia is not a sexual preference. Before we go into any content, if just upon hearing that statement you ask yourself, actually, it's okay to not be attracted sexually or physically to
It's not asking yourself something. So I just, oh gosh. So whenever they go here, whenever fat activists go in this direction, it's so incredibly creepy to me on every single level. I get it. We all have been salty before. We all have wanted somebody that didn't want us. I mean, at least I have. I don't know. It's happened. Or we wanted somebody and then they're taken by somebody else, right? We've all experienced these types of feelings. I would say the vast majority of us at least once in our lives. And I get that and I understand that. But what I don't get is trying to guilt somebody into being attracted to you or trying to do this type of thing. Now, I may have my type. I may have what I like, or I may like the guys that I like. But if I don't like you, I don't like you. And that should be respected. And that's how I see it. I have very strong boundaries in regards to that kind of thing. And if somebody is not interested, I do not pursue at all. Because personally, I'm not attracted to somebody who's not attracted to me at all. Unless if it's just like total crush fantasy type of stuff, right? But like in terms of like, if I'm actually talking to the person and I feel like they're not interested or whatever, then I'm not going to talk to them anymore. Or if they're taken, I'm not going to talk to them anymore. It's not it. It's not a vibe. So, I don't know. Like, I know there's that whole like Ariana Grande type of thing where she's like all about trying to get people who are taken. I don't know. Like, I know there's some people that are like that, but I just feel like that's some kind of a trauma response or there's something wrong, honestly, with somebody like that. And I think that it's kind of similar. Like, if you're really trying really hard to get somebody to be attracted to you that is not attracted to you, there's some kind of trauma response there that I think you should explore. Honestly, I know they're always telling us to explore our feelings or whatever. Ooh. Nice. I would suggest that they explore their own feelings. Sorry, I just heard this like notification on my computer. I don't know if you guys did. Otherwise, you guys will be like, "What the heck just happened?" That's what happened. Um. Anyways, so let's go ahead and continue here.
Fat people, or not wanting to date fat people doesn't make me fat phobic. Well, we might need to talk about that. So let's get into it. Anytime we are working through unraveling internalized fat phobia, it can feel almost like a knot wanting to be unraveled. And it's helpful to know that when we interrogate that internalized fat phobia, it might come up through feelings of defensiveness and frustration, especially when looking through some of the posts that I write.
So I just want to note here that this person is severely damaging the therapy profession. This is so unethical, in my opinion. This is something that, as somebody myself, I question therapists a lot. I don't trust therapy. I'm just going to say it flat out. I don't. That doesn't mean that I think it's wrong for every single person. That doesn't mean that I judge anybody who goes or anything like that. It's just I have not had pleasant experiences with therapists. And so her doing this, any like shred of consideration I could have had of thinking of going to therapy for any reason, she just shut it down. I just want her to know that. So this profession, or, this career choice is already severely under scrutiny, and you're taking away more credibility. I just want you to know that. That's what I'm going to say. All right. I know that's a little harsh, but I'm going to keep it 100. Like, this is upsetting me a lot. So I don't like the therapist talk when they're just like, da na 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 na, and especially when it's so unethical and like creepy, and when they're trying to, I never went to like a conversion therapy type of thing, but that's what this is giving to me. I'm disgusted. So let's continue.
Especially this one on fat phobia not being a sexual preference.
Okay.
Typically, the way that we understand fat phobia as a structure is the same way that we would understand any other type of body-based oppression. And so when I say structure, I mean that there are two levels of fat phobia. That's the individual level and the systemic level of fat phobia. And within each of these,
what do you not understand about the fact that we don't owe our bodies to other people? What do you not understand about the fact that within society, we have ownership over our bodies, and certainly within religious faith, like being a Christian, God has ownership over your body. Not everybody else. Maybe within marriage, something like that, but not everybody. Not every single person, no matter what, whether you're religious, whether you're atheistic, and it doesn't matter. The way that our society is run, we do not owe our bodies to every single person. And it is incredibly disturbing for you to try to muddy that and try to say that it's because of this oppression or that oppression. No. No, 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 no. No. It's ridiculous. And again, it's so disturbing. It's so disturbing.
There are two separate types of individual and systemic fat phobia. So in the individual level, there's internalized fat phobia and interpersonal fat phobia. And within the systemic level of fat phobia, there is institutional fat phobia and structural fat phobia. I find that this four-tiered system is really important for us to really understand.
I don't think it is important. I certainly don't, I guess I don't have a FE edish for systemic whatever, because I don't really think about that when I'm going there, when I want to go there, when I like somebody. I'm not thinking about politics and all this BS. I'm thinking about the person. Maybe that's not you, but that's me. I think if it is you, again, that's something you need to explore. If you can't even just be attracted to somebody without referencing some kind of political ideology in your mind, you might be a little crazy. I'm just saying.
When we're trying to dissect the different ways that fat phobia exists across a structure laterally, because oftentimes we only get stuck thinking about fat phobia as someone called me fat on the internet, or my aunt commented on how much weight I gained when I saw her at Thanksgiving. Yeah, these are both great examples of fat phobia, and we can't forget about the ways that we internalize fat phobia, not just the ways that we communicate fat phobia interpersonally, but also the institutional ways that institutions create unfair policies and discriminatory practices that perpetuate fat phobia, and how those practices happen across institutions to create structural fat phobia. We see this often in medical offices, we see it in insurance companies, we see it on airplanes. That's kind of what we think of when we think of structural fat phobia. We think
Still waiting for the connection to sexual preference. Waiting on that.
of fat folks who lose their jobs to being fat. I think about fat folks who get kicked off planes. I think of fat folks who get denied insurance coverage or medical care due to their BMI status, the BMI number assigned to them. They're often refused things like top surgery or fertility treatment, which is
Yeah, so I'm not going to go into all of that. There are arguments within pretty much everything that this person has said. Just one example is when they say BMI requirements for medical treatment, that usually has to do with a BMI requirement for a surgery because it's more dangerous if you're above a certain BMI. And we've talked about it a lot in the anti-FA space in terms of the risk for the doctor, the risk for the patient, the risk for everybody involved. It's an important consideration. So, yeah. But let's go ahead and just move on. I'm trying to get to the preference part.
fat phobia. That is medical fat phobia and a discriminatory practice that was created intentionally to discriminate against fat bodies. If you're watching this video in the US, then you know that the BMI, or the body mass index, is a scale, a metric, used to apply discrimination on fat individuals.
Okay. Sorry. I've never heard it said that way before. I don't know. Is it just me, you guys? Like, just the tone and, like, just everything. I don't know. It just kind of made me laugh. Oh, my gosh. Okay. I'm like, Alex, you're here to actually respond. The BMI is a tool used to delineate different categories of weight that, especially within obesity, categorize different levels of risk. And I think it's actually very useful for that. It's less useful in terms of just being overweight or healthy weight, because if you have high muscle mass, for example, it can be wrong. So it's not a perfect measurement. But all right.
So So when I go to the doctor's office, I am assigned a number on the BMI scale, and depending on what number I'm assigned, that will grant or deny.
You're assigned. Okay. All right. It's not depending on where you are on the scale and not depending on how much you weigh. It's just you're just assigned that. Okay.
Me access.
Like I said, I want you guys to know people like this person completely undermine the profession or the I guess it is a profession. I don't know if that's the wrong term, but they completely undermine therapy. I'm just going to say that.
To certain medical procedures. This is called structural fat phobia, and I often
Because I would think, okay, so if I were going to a therapist, are they just going to assign me a diagnosis based on something random? Like, if I were to go to her, would she just give me something that she felt? Like, you know what I'm saying? If she views things so subjectively, is it worth even going? That's where my mind goes. So, if they can't even understand the BMI, then how can I trust them with anything? You see?
go a step deeper and call it medical fat phobia. The types of surgeries and procedures that you might assume would be denied. I'm not talking about knee replacement surgery, which is absolutely a fat phobic thing to deny a fat patient to receive. No, I'm talking about fertility treatment. I'm even talking about top surgery. So, someone who is assigned a higher BMI category might be denied any fertility treatment.
So I'm still questioning what is the connection to preference.
Based on their fertility doctor's own fat phobia. The same can happen to a surgeon who may deny a trans client to receive gender affirming surgery like top surgery due to their assigned BMI. These are both really specific examples of
Okay, so when you're going to bed with somebody, you think about all this? This is your thoughts? Because that's what I'm getting from this. I can't think of something less sexy than thinking about if a fat person can get a surgery or not. Like, I'm sorry. It's not on the top of my list of things that it's not on the top of my go-tos, my go-to thoughts. It's not what I'm like considering at all. Just me, you guys.
medical fat phobia. Internalized fat phobia is my favorite one to talk about on Instagram. And that's the ways that we ingest this whole structure and system and understanding the value of fat bodies and the way that we internalize it, meaning the way that we put ourselves within that worth hierarchy.
So I always find it interesting that a lot of these people, they don't think that there's anything inherent in a person. They don't think that there's anything within a person. Like, there's no recognition of physical reality or physical body. So it's only government system that determines everything, and it's not your biology. Your biology doesn't determine anything at all. And I find it to be so incredibly black and white in how they think about the world. It's fascinating to me. But I completely disagree with it, obviously. And I always say, when this is brought up, one of the clearest indications to me that it is inherent has to do with the issue of being gay. I grew up in a incredibly heterosexual system. I went to an evangelical Christian school from the ages of 4 to 14. So I was very much raised in that. And it was not okay to be gay at all. And I still am, you know? So I have a really hard time buying into that a system can determine something biological. And I wouldn't say that this person is homophobic. I would just say that this person denies reality blatantly because, I'm sure for all my straight people out there, if you grew up in a very homosexual system, you still would have been attracted to the opposite sex. So it's like something like this, it's just so clearly not a thing. Even in times where the country was extremely racist, for example, there were still people that were attracted to different, like there were still mixed race couples and things like that. And I'm specifically talking about like consensual, loving type of things. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm just saying, like, in that context, that still was a thing and they had to hide it and stuff, and it was illegal to get married as well. But it's like that was a whole system and it doesn't matter. It didn't change the attraction. It didn't change that, is what I'm trying to say. Somebody's interested in what they're interested in. And as long as it's, ethical, right? Nothing horrific that I don't want to get into on this video or on this channel, really. I think it's like, come on. I'm calling BS massively.
I experience this anytime I experience that pressure of wanting to go on another diet, or wanting to pursue intentional weight loss. I experience internalized fat phobia anytime I imagine that my life would just magically be easier if I were X number of pounds.
So this is so interesting. So I guess in their mind, fat phobia is reality. So they experience reality, and that is called fat phobia to them. So if they experience a moment of clarity or like a lucid moment, and then they say, oh, no, that's fat phobia. Cancel it out. Go back into the delusion. Go back into the matrix. We don't want reality. We want fake reality. We want cartoon world. That's what we want.
Lighter. Internalized fat phobia for me assumes this conflation between thinness and health. Instead of actually breaking down what does health mean, what does mobility mean, what does a happy, joyful quality of life mean, instead of assuming that thinness is the epitome of really great health. It's important for us to acknowledge that the actual roots of fat phobia come from anti-blackness.
There we go. We were waiting for that one.
And colonization.
Okay, so I don't know what is with these types of people, but they just will say something and then they expect you to just buy in. I don't. No. I don't believe that. I don't agree with you. I think that's a bunch of BS. And then what are they going to say? Because it's just interesting. Like, I wonder, like, who are the people that hear somebody say something like this and they're like, okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. Like, if that's you, please, like, you have to question things more of what people say.
And I say that based on a lot of the material published in Sabrina String's recently published book, just earlier this spring in 2019, called Fearing the Black Body.
Okay, well, you guys all cite one source. I haven't looked into the source, but I can look at thousands of years of world history, cultures all over at different places around the world, different times, even cultures that have not interacted at all. And a lot of this is still a thing. So, yeah, I'm going to just believe all that, and I'll just leave that one source that you guys all cite. I'll leave that one and say, this is probably wrong.
Basically, what she asserts is that through European colonization of West Africa, there was this specific usage of fat phobia in order to establish a hierarchy of civilized white European and fat, savage black slaves. And in creating this binary, this hierarchy,
Again, what does this have to do with preference? I'm just like, can we please get to the point? Please. This is killing me.
European colonizers rationalized through things like race science and white supremacist art, they rationalized their desire to enslave people who they deemed to be savage due to their body size, skin color, assumed temperament.
See, what I find to be interesting too is like, how come they can only look at something like that? Like, they'll hold on to that forever, right? So it's like, if somebody isn't attracted to somebody who's fat today, it's because of the 1800s. But they can never consider that perhaps their beliefs are actually the ones that are rooted in racism. Because if you're like asserting that Black people are inherently fat, isn't that based on a stereotype that is kind of racist? Like, isn't that like a more direct connection rather than taking something that's been all across the world, all across history, and then saying it's because of the 1800s and colonization in America? It's like, what about everywhere else in the world? Why are these standards in Europe then? Why are these standards in East Asia? Why are these standards everywhere? Like, come on. It's just ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I just am like, maybe your belief that to be Black is to be fat is actually what's rooted in racism. Maybe you might want to consider that.
And based on the type of food that they ate. So that's especially why it's important when we're going to have conversations about fat phobia that they need to be linked with food. So whenever we talk about fat people, we're often talking about the type of food that fat people are eating. So anytime someone's criticizing a food based on its like presumed nutritional quality, there is.
Okay, so what? We're shilling for McDonald's or what? Like, what is this? Like, seriously, what is this? I am so just like flabbergasted by this.
Usually an inherent conversation that's subtly happening in that subtext.
Because I can't think of something more natural, more culturally sound than McDonald's.
About fat people. It's hard to prove, but it's usually happening. Another way that I observe fat phobia seeping into our personal relationships is through the experience of non-consensual diets and diet trauma more broadly in general. So non-consensual diets can happen, especially to children, when they're placed on their bodies by adults, by caregivers. And I call them non-consensual because oftentimes children cannot consent to a diet that's not medically necessary without fully informed consent. I call it non-consensual because that is based on my personal experience. What I experienced as a child was being put on diets from the ages of like 8, as young as 8, 9, and 10. And I believe that I could not have consented that young to a diet.
So I would like them to define a diet, because what does that even mean? Is that, oh, my kid wants to eat candy all the time and I'm denying them candy all the time? Or is it, I'm making my kid keto or vegan or on a, strict caloric deficit? Like, what is it that we're saying here? Because I could understand if you're like cutting out a whole food group. I don't think that that's good to do for a child. But if it's like you're just denying them candy and junk food and you're wanting them to have nutritious stuff, would that be non-consensual as well? Like, it just sounds weird, doesn't it? Very, very bizarre.
And what I experienced was it didn't feel good in my body. It didn't feel consensual. It did not feel good in my body. And so that's why I use that language and that
Okay, but you're not saying what the diet was or anything, so nobody knows what you're talking about. So it just sounds really weird.
wording. But more broadly, diet trauma we can experience this anytime we attempt a diet and we fail, meaning our body compensates for this famine that we're putting it under, and it resists the famine. But
Okay, so I talk a lot about losing weight on this channel. What typically tends to happen is they tend to lose weight in a way that is not pro-thyroid or that undermines thyroid hormone, either through eating very estrogenic foods, things like soy, for example, or through cutting out entire food groups, or from overworking out and under eating. So eating too low of a deficit, like all those things, you give your thyroid a hit. If you do like all of them at once, you're gonna fail. I try to do as much as I can to support my thyroid, and just the act of losing weight, it is a little bit of a hit to your thyroid, even if you're just losing in general. So it's like you try to compensate for that and then you can keep going. But she's describing it as this famine, blah, blah, blah. It's not necessarily a famine. It depends on, are you eating a balanced diet? So are you getting all your nutrition that you need? Are you getting the macros that you need to function? And are you still in a bit of a deficit to lose weight in? That's what it is. A lot of people, the answer is no. They cut out way too much, they go way too low, they train way too much, and it becomes a problem. But if you just are more reasonable about it and you just have a more slight caloric deficit, or you make sure you're eating your balanced diet, like you're having meat, you're having fruit, you're having fat, especially saturated fat, like you're not fearing having full fat yogurt, for example. If you're just eating like a normal human being, but just less, and you're not eating fried foods and fast foods and things like that, it's like, okay, you're going to be fine. You're not going to be that hungry. If you can acknowledge that on different days you're going to need different macros, you're going to be fine. Don't commit hardcore to a low-fat diet. Maybe some days you're going to need more fat. Don't commit to a low-carb diet. Maybe some days you're going to need more carbs. Or same with protein. Like, just let it flow. But make sure you're getting a little bit of everything at least. You need to make sure you're getting a piece of everything. Even if the amounts are bigger or smaller in that day, it doesn't matter. But don't ever just like cut out meat completely when you're trying to lose weight. You can try to force it, but it is so difficult, and it just doesn't have to be that hard. It really doesn't. But anyway, so we're going to continue.
Making sure that it doesn't lose weight and it maintains the body size or tries to regain the weight that was lost. Diet trauma can happen because of a lot of consistent yo-yo dieting. We can experience diet trauma by going to see several medical providers who recommend weight loss, and when we try it, we don't feel good because we were not successful at losing weight.
So I just have an issue with that because let's keep it real. When you're as big as this person is, you never feel good. So I don't like it when they say that, because the truth is you don't feel that good when you're losing weight. But you also don't feel good when you're staying the same either. And I resent a lot of FAs because they don't share how awful they actually feel. And I'm just like, come on, you guys. Like, you're not fooling me. But yeah, when you get to a super morbid obese level, you're going to feel horrible no matter what you do. So would you rather feel horrible and continue to get worse, or would you rather feel horrible and be losing weight and get out of it? I would rather feel horrible, lose the weight, and be getting out of it. You know, because it's true. It feels a little different. But you never are feeling good. Not really. No. I am very close to being out of super morbid obesity. Super, super close. Of course, my body has bloated. This happens every month, so I'm not quite getting there. But I still am transitioning out of it. And it is getting easier. Or like I am feeling better. It's like I'm realizing things are shifting at this point. And I honestly, I am way beyond the glass ceiling of health I could get when I was 90 pounds of fat heavier, you know? It's just, you feel, it's the same way in as it is out. So it's kind of like you chug along and you're gaining the weight and you're fine until suddenly you aren't fine anymore. That happens all the time to people who are really big. It's like you think you're fine and then your health just collapses underneath you. Like pretty much like a bridge. It kind of is the same way on the way out. So you're losing the weight, you feel like crap, and then you're like 70 pounds down. Like for me, it was like I was 70 pounds down, and all of a sudden I started to feel better. Like it was starting to get easier to walk. And I started to have less emotional issues or less of these problems that I was having. You just start to like come back out of it. It's like the bridge just like starts to regenerate. That's kind of how it is. Like everything is delayed with weight. So I find it particularly insidious when they say things like this, because this is convincing. That part is convincing to a super morbidly obese person, especially an average person that is of that size, and that is horrifying to me because it does get better. It does. But it is delayed. Everything's delayed with weight because it's not just about losing the weight, it's about being that lower weight for a period of time. That's what heals you. It's the time at that weight. And it's the same thing, which it's what damages you is the time at a higher weight. And people just don't understand that.
Because some of the research that the anti-diet dietitians that I admire and that I look up to and that I refer to, like Christy Harrison, just to name one, she cites research that estimates something like 95 to 97% of diets do not result, and diet meaning intentional weight loss, do not result in long-term sustained weight loss after 5 years. So that's something that's significant for us to think about, because if many of us dieters had that knowledge before trying a new diet, we might not have gone in with all of our eggs in that basket, and we might not have fallen so hard when all of our hopes and dreams were dashed by having our body save us from what it perceived to be famine. One thing that I want to make sure is stated is that sexual fetishes are not sexual preferences. And sexual orientation is not sexual preferences. So these are things that.
What? What is she going on about? This is so interesting for her to try to like divide that. That's so interesting. So again, I agree on I don't know what the hell she's even trying to say. Wow, that is weird. I agree that Fetish is not like a super significant, like it's a part of people's sexuality, but it's not like the root of it. It's not that important. But in terms of like the actual like orientation and everything, that is more of the root of it, if that makes sense. But still, within your orientation and what you're attracted to, you're going to have those preferences. So I know it's a weird way to describe it, but I always, in my mind at least, I've thought of sexuality as like your orientation is the root, and then everything that grows out of that is like further downstream. So it's like you may be gay or straight, for example, but those other preferences grow out from that. So it's still like relevant, is what I'm trying to say. And then, like I said, I don't know about the Fetish things. It's like, I'm not even going to get into that really because it's kind of irrelevant. But I just think that it's like another one of those offshoots, or, it's like a branch on your sexuality, or a fruit of it, or whatever. It's something like that. But that's kind of how I've always thought of it. So when she's saying that, I'm like, I don't think they're like actually separate. Like it's not like a ching ching. I can at least speak from a male perspective, at least, like in a male brain. It's not actually separate. It's all together. So I don't know. The girlies in the comments, you guys will have to let me know if it's different for you guys or for you. I'm not a woman, obviously, but as far as male, it's not separated at all. It just isn't.
I'm not talking about when having this conversation. So if someone were to say, well, my sexual orientation is that I am a lesbian. I will never tell a lesbian that they are discriminating against men.
Not yet.
If they are not attracted to men.
No, you're just saying this because you probably would. I don't know, because you're weird. I don't trust you. I don't. But what I would say is, I think these are just disqualifiers. So she's trying to manipulate the listener into saying, I wouldn't say that. That's just crazy. But if I can get you to buy into this, then I'll say that later. That's what that is.
So that's not what I'm saying here when I'm talking about fat phobia not being a sexual preference. And I'm not talking about individuals who fetishize someone's fat body, and how fat phobia is not a sexual preference there either. There are many fat individuals who consensually engage in being a fetishized fat person in a romantic relationship. And that is, body autonomy overall. That is my personal motto. And I am not here to comment on adults making autonomous decisions about their own fat bodies. Never. Girl Scouts honor. Never. Am I here to...
Okay, see, it's just weird because it's like you're not here to say anything about that, but you're here to say something about if somebody has a preference for a fat person. You see, like, are you guys seeing that weird doublespeak? That is so crazy to me. It's like, how are you contradicting yourself or viewing all these things as incredibly separate? Because I don't view it as that separate. If you're telling a person they have to be attracted to a fat person, then you're telling you're not respecting autonomy. You're not. Because then you're saying, well, I respect body autonomy for a fat person. You don't. What if a fat person doesn't find a fat person attractive? It's crazy.
Keep consensual adults from doing what they want to do. What I am saying...
Then why are you making this video? That's what I would say if I was sitting in front of her. I'd say, then why are you making this?
though, is that when someone states and offers this broad statement, such as, I'm just not attracted to fat people, never have, never will be, no desire to interrogate why that statement just exists unchallenged within my brain space, those are the individuals that I want to talk to. And again, not for the purposes of forcing anyone to be attracted to me. No. This is part of the...
Okay, well then why are you doing this at all? By the way, I'm sorry if you can hear my heater. It turned on. Winter, okay? I'm so over winter. Hate it. But I'm sorry, it's still winter and it's coming for me. So I hope you guys can handle that. I'm sorry. Okay. But anyways, you are saying that though. Because if you're not saying that, then why even make this at all? Why even make this at all? That's my question.
Larger conversation of better understanding how we ingest fat phobia and make it part of our belief system without totally being aware of where those messages came from or how they have so seamlessly been woven into the fabric of our own personal values, beliefs, and attitudes. That's what I am here to help us understand. The fact of the matter is that our sexual preferences are not hardwired. They're actually really socially conditioned. We do have some control over the fluidity of those preferences.
Massive citation needed, especially from a male perspective. Especially from a male perspective. I do not think that she is considering that at all. I don't know if that's the case for females. I don't know. I'm not female. But I don't know. Like, this whole thing is so... It's just so eerily similar to things that I heard growing up. It is very similar. It's so incredibly similar.
And I often see this when I work with clients who have experienced sexual trauma and are sometimes willfully shifting the fluidity of who they are attracted to because of their experience of trauma. So my challenge to you is, don't hide behind the excuse of sexual preference. If you're going to tell me the list of reasons why you don't date X person for Y reasons, just name it for what it is. Say that you're fatphobic. Say that you're anti-black. Say that you're struggling with some type...
This is so weird. This is very, like, abusive. So I'll say it again. Therapy, psychology, totally undermined. I would never go. I'm never going to something like that.
Type of racism against
if I heard somebody say this to me, I probably would cuss them out and then I would leave. That's probably what would happen. This is disgusting.
Your ethnicity. Let me know that you're xenophobic. Let me know that you're transphobic. Let me know that you're struggling with some misogynoir. Let me know that you don't take deep...
This is disgusting. So disgusting. You guys, I'm serious. Like, this is just so gross. Because if she's bringing in the trans thing, that has to do with genital preference. And when you get into that whole discussion, that is conversion therapy. I don't care what you say. It is. No.
People with addiction, because you are really affected by addiction stigma. Let me know that you're whorephobic and that you don't date sex workers. Let me know that you're anti-native and that you don't date indigenous people. Let me know that you're anti-Dalit, Bahujan, or Adivasi and that you do not date people who are not upper caste. Hindus. Let me know that you are actually really like elite classist and you don't date poor people. Let me know that you're actually super ableist and that's why you don't date disabled people. Let me know that you're a super duper Islamophobic.
I told you. So remember I told you where she's like, I wouldn't tell you as a lesbian that you can't be a lesbian. Yes, you would. You absolutely would.
And that's why you don't date Muslims. Don't hide behind the sexual preference label. Don't hide behind this understanding that you are somehow hardwired to never be attracted to Muslims. No. Please acknowledge the cultural climate that is Islamophobic, that is informing that sexual preference. It is not a hardwiring. Your DNA does not know who a Muslim
Screw you. That's what I have to say to you.
is. If you're watching this video and you're like, shit, I think I'm struggling with fat phobia.
No, I'm watching this video and thinking, you're disgusting. That's what I'm thinking.
Because I will not date someone who is fat, or I am realizing.
No, I'm thinking trying to force somebody to be attracted to anybody is incredibly unethical and very strange and gross and creepy. That's what I'm thinking.
That I do not experience attraction towards fat bodies. I don't find them desirable. I don't find them beautiful. I don't find them, even in artful ways, attractive. What I am not telling you, as a sex therapist, as an activist, as a fat person, what I am never telling you to do is to human experiment on people by dating them and working through your fat phobia with fat people, or whatever X group of people you are wanting to work through your bigotry. But please don't do that. You will harm the individuals that you're dating, even if you don't intend to.
What is she even saying? This is crazy.
What you can do instead, however, instead of human
Like, what is the point of this video?
experimenting, is doing things like, trying some porn or erotica with different bodies. Notice what feelings are coming up for you. Are you looking at porn that is reflective of your body?
Okay, I'm sorry, you guys. This is so weird. Like, how is this normal? To be, like, suggesting somebody watch something. Is that not, like, seriously? I don't know. Like, isn't that kind of like harassment? I find that to be like a form of harassment. I think that's really weird.
The bodies of individuals who you want to be attracted to. Why or why not? So I often work with clients who are fat, who are struggling with internalized fat phobia, and what they notice is that they're often watching porn of thin-bodied individuals, of thin, skinny, slim people. And when I ask them, why is that? When we interrogate that further, sometimes it is because they have a hard time finding and eroticizing fat bodies. So an exercise that we often do together is by intentionally looking for porn with fat bodies in order to internally...
Oh my gosh, what a crackpot. This is so disturbing. Oh my gosh.
Interrogate and ask ourselves and have this dialogue with ourselves of, hey, what's coming up for me when I watch this fat porn? Am I feeling disgust? Am I feeling aroused? Am I surprised by that arousal?
What are you watching it together? That's weird. I am so confused. I don't even know. I'm just going to let it play.
And how can I challenge myself to find, 2 to 3 attractive qualities about this fat body? How can I look at this fat, attractive, aroused body in this erotica, in this porn, in literature that I might be reading? And how can finding gratitude or desirability in that fat body help me to find like gratitude, peace, neutrality, stillness from my own body? Because oftentimes, what our internalized fat phobia or our interpersonal fat phobia that we inflict on others, sometimes what that's really about is our own, like, very, very deep inability to be at peace with ourselves. And a lot.
Okay, and what is all this that you're doing? That's not, you're not doing all this because you have an inability to be at peace. Like, I can assure you, I don't care about what anybody's doing. Like, I don't. Like, unless if I want to have sex with you, I do not give a fuck. I do not care. Like, I'm not interested in what other people are doing. Like, I don't care. And even with that, it's like, if you don't want to be with me, then I'm also not interested. So I'm only going to be interested in who I'm interested in being with and who's also interested in being with me. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. Because my thoughts, feelings, experiences, whatever in that area of life are totally private, and they're mine. They don't belong to you. They don't belong to the public. They don't belong to every random person. That is weird. And it's like, I don't understand. I just don't understand. I mean, gosh, like, I don't even know why you would make a video like this. I just don't.
Ourselves to take up the space that we need. And so when we see others being able to take up the space that their body demands, we project our own disgust with ourselves onto those other fat bodies. Sometimes that's really what our fat phobia is actually about. Thanks so much for having some curiosity about this conversation. If you are looking for more information or resources about how I even came to this conclusion of understanding internalized fat phobia, and how it's not a valid sexual preference, I'm going to offer you some names and some ideas,
Okay.
some places to go.
No, we're not going to go there. So that was horrible. Oh, I don't have anything on here.
Hi.
Oh, no. I had to, like, re-download everything on my
Hi.
computer, so I'm having a little bit of technical issues. But what I will say is, oops, watch me, like, totally have a moment with this. Okay, what I will say is, I am so incredibly disgusted, and I just don't even know, like, I don't know why everybody thinks it's everybody's business. You know what I mean? Like, when she was going on that list where she's just like, oh yeah, like, all your preferences are bigotry. Basically, every single one of them. I am just like, what the hell? Like, seriously. What a creepy creeper. What a psycho. Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna go now. That killed me. I will talk to you guys again soon. I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. See you soon.